Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. And hello, everyone. This is Brian, and
this is Carrie,
and she's Carrie. And
hello.
Make sure you close the door because you're now in the kitchen. This is the Ketovangelist Kitchen. Don't leave the door open because we're not cooling the outside. We're not air conditioning the outside. Carrie Brown, when you were growing up in Jolly Old, did you guys have central air, or did you grow up in a castle and it was just naturally air flowing through the rooms to keep everything acclimated and comfortable?
Yeah, we had central air, but we called them windows.
Oh, okay. So no. So no is what you're saying.
We have no use for air conditioning in England, like none. There's
right.
no time at which we would ever switch it on if we had it. So no, we open windows.
So I grew up in a part of my youth. I grew up in the southern parts of the United States, and in southern Alabama. And part of the charm, if you will, of that particular part of the country is the fact that it not only gets to 100 degrees, but it gets to like 400% humidity in the middle of the summer. And, a lot of people think, oh, well, at nighttime it'll be cooler. And that's where you're wrong. It actually gets hotter, it seems, at night. And when all you've got is your windows available to you, when you open the windows, you're basically inviting all of the heat to come in to basically smother you while you're sleeping. So
when I lived in Australia, I used to live in Perth over on the west side, and February, it was the month of the first February I was there. It was so hot that even the flies went away, which was the one good thing about it being so hot, was that there were no flies. I think it was like once you hit 36 degrees C, whatever that is in hundreds, the flies go away. So it was like, well, if it's going to be 35, then please let it be 37, because at least we won't have any flies. And I also remember the first time when it got that hot, I remember driving in my car and it didn't have air conditioning because I'm British, and I'm like, why would I buy a car with air conditioning, even though I'm in Australia? And I turned the fans on, and it was like turning a hairdryer Yep. on my face. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not going to do that again. And so, yes, I very quickly learned why people in Australia have air-conditioned cars.
So for folks who are curious, 36 degrees Celsius is 96.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So,
well, in Australia anyway, once it hit 36, there were no flies. They were just gone.
So I have two similar stories to what you're talking about. When we moved to Tucson, Arizona, my first duty station when I joined the Air Force, they moved us to Tucson, Arizona, and that's in the middle of the desert. And what you just described is exactly my experience. So a lot of times in my youth, I would just roll the windows down instead of using the air conditioner in my vehicles. That way I would keep cool, climate controlled, at least a reasonable amount. When you do that in Tucson, it is essentially like having a large window-shaped blow dryer smacking you in the face for the entire trip. Right? So I know exactly what you're saying. It is miserable. And it basically broke me, and it made me realize that I'm going to be using my air conditioner for the rest of the time that I'm in a vehicle.
And when I went to India and on a this was a billion years ago, but I went to India on a photographic course because, I mean, if you're going to take a course in photography, then go somewhere fun, right? So I went to India, and that was magical, that trip. But we had our itinerary, and it said we were going to drive from, I don't know, Delhi to I don't even remember. It was a long way. We were going in a bus to get from one place where we were staying to the next hotel because we kind of toured a bit. And so there's me and 15 other photographers. And it was billed as an air-conditioned bus. And we got on the bus and we're like, where's the air conditioning?
Right.
And they said, open the windows.
Yes. Yes.
And that was in India back then anyway. That was an air-conditioned bus, was opening the windows.
Yeah, I would be like, I'm out at that point.
The good thing about it is that well, for me anyway, was that I was so excited to be there, and I was so fascinated with, watching the scenery and watching the people and watching everything that I kind of did. Plus I was about 100 pounds soaking wet back then. So, I didn't really get hot. It took a lot to make me get hot. So, I was fine. But that was, I remember now, the air conditioned bus. Open the windows.
Right. So
why are we talking about it being hot? Is it hot in Texas or something? Because it's definitely not hot in Seattle.
It's the summertime in Texas, so yes, it is quite hot. That's just kind of a given. But that was just fun talk, fun conversation is all. Now
I'm going to come to Texas in the summer.
Yeah, will it still
be summer when I come?
It is going to be the dregs of summer. It's going to be late August, early September, and some years that happens to be the hottest time of the year. So
perfect.
Make sure you wear a lot of very thick coats because you don't want to get caught by surprise.
Well, as you know, because you have hung out with me, I never leave home without my LL Bean minus 35 degree thermal jacket.
Right. I can safely assure you, you'll want to leave that at home. At least leave it in your room when you're here and out and about. Just saying, because you definitely will not need it. It gets plenty hot.
Good.
But that's enough planning. That's a long enough time away. You can plan for that. But what are we going to talk about first? We got a few things to go over, right? What are we going to talk about first?
We do. Let's do. Okay. Well, you do admin, and then I'll do reviews.
I do admin. Okay. So here's the thing. If you want Carrie Brown to basically narrate. Carrie Brown is the keto equivalent of Morgan Freeman, basically. Anything you write, you want Carrie Brown to read it. So if you want her to read something from you, then all you have to do is leave us a rating and review on the iTunes. You can use your podcast app, or you can go to iTunes, make sure you're signed in, and leave us a rating and review because we appreciate it. Also, we are on social medias, primarily Facebook group called, what's it called?
KETOGENIC Kitchen.
Oddly enough, it's called KETOVangelist Kitchen. And if you wanted to find us on Twitter, we're KetoVan Kitchen because Twitter's dumb. And Instagram is KetoVangelist Kitchen because Instagram is less dumb than Twitter.
And Pinterest.
And there's a Pinterest thing too. And I'm assuming that's KetoVangelist Kitchen.
Yes.
Okay. It's the full thing.
Or maybe it's KetoVan Kitchen. I don't know. But if you type in KetoVangelist Kitchen, it'll pop up.
All right. Well, Pinterest is dumb too then, possibly. We'll see.
But people love Pinterest, so.
People do love Pinterest. And as a guy, I can't figure out exactly why. But I hear that it's a thing. I hear it's a big thing.
It is a thing. But actually, while we're talking about Pinterest, I do get frustrated because people, so there's every once in a while, someone will go, does anyone have a recipe for X? Mm-hmm. And someone will say, oh, just search Pinterest for keto X. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, but that doesn't help the person find, that helps people find recipes, whether they're good, whether they work, whether they taste delicious, whether they're actually keto, it's just like, don't send people to Pinterest. What they're asking for is, do you have a recipe that you've made and works? They're not asking for just like, a Pinterest board full of supposedly keto things.
Right. So, yeah.
So I get a bit annoyed. So sometimes I'll just go delete those comments because they're just not helpful.
Right. I mean, it's the equivalent of saying, "Hey, does anyone have a recommendation for a good car?" And the statement in response being, "Just go to a used car lot." Right.
Exactly. What a brilliant analogy. That's exactly what it's like. And I do get a little bit frustrated about
my work is done here.
Just type just type Keto X into Google. And I'm like, how is that helpful? It's not helpful at all.
All right. So if you found yourself guilty of that, just know that you have drawn Carrie Brown's ire. And
well, I exist to help, and that's not helpful. You could spend hours like trolling through recipes and still not know if they're good, if they work, if they taste good, if they're anything. You
hear that, Kevin? It's not helpful. There. No offense to any other Kevins. You know who I'm talking about. All right. So so people can get their reviews read by telling the world how awesome Carrie is. So Carrie, you want to read a review or two?
We have 7 new reviews in the last week. So now I'm completely lost. So I'm just going to rattle through, and not luckily, because I like the long ones, but I'm going to rattle through a few. Otherwise we're going to get deluged.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to start at the top again, which means that there's a bunch of people in the middle who still haven't been read, but I will get to you.
All right.
I know I've missed a bunch of people where did I get to? We did Lily. We did. Okay. I know. Actually, no, I won't. Okay. I'll go down to this one because this one just makes me smile just looking at the title. And it's called Ragdoll in the Kitchen.
Oh, there's a lot of words there. I mean, that's a lot of meaning there.
And it had 5 stars. And it was by JD Golf 60.
All right.
And JD Golf 60 said, Brian and Carrie are so much fun together. You should see us in person, JD Golf 60. Anyway, Brian and Carrie are so much fun together. I usually listen in my car and then have to listen again so I can write things down. I'm just wondering how to keep the ragdoll hair out of my crock pot, or are hairballs keto?
No, they're not.
Okay, don't eat the hairballs.
Nope. Yeah, there
JD Golf 60.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for mentioning my animals, because I love them and I like it when people mention them.
Yes. Do you want to clarify that for people who aren't sure what we're talking about with the ragdoll?
Oh, ragdoll. A ragdoll is a breed of cat. They were bred from, and I can never remember, they were bred from 2 different things. They were bred from a Burmese and a something else. And this lady, and the original ragdoll was called Josephine. And anyway, so her owner started this whole new breed, and ragdolls are awesome because they are people cats. They're lap cats. They really don't care about other cats. They only care about people. And their other nickname is puppy dogs because they're puppy cats, because they behave like dogs. So they'll sit by the door and wait for you to come home, and they'll follow you around, and they're very, very cute. And they're definitely focused. They tend to pick one human in the house, and that's their human, much like dogs do. And luckily for me, I am the only human, so all the ragdolls love me.
I was going to say, lucky for you, they actually picked you, because that would have been really awkward if you had a guest over and they'd been like, "Nope, I'm imprinting on Jerry over here."
So anyway, that's a ragdoll. It's a breed of pedigree cat. And they're characterized, apart from their thinking they're dogs, they're characterized by incredibly long, very, very silky fur. And they're called ragdolls because when you pick them up, they go all floppy like a ragdoll. And they just loll around a lot. And and I have 2. I have Daisy and I have Mr. McHenry, who has his own Instagram account because he's hilarious. And yeah, so that's it, ragdolls. Love
All right.
them.
So there you go. That's the reference point. Okay. So next one then.
Oh, now I'm going to go back to the top to the new ones because I can't remember which of the others I've done. So these I know I haven't. So informative and hilarious! 5 stars.
Yeah.
And that was from someone who calls themselves Keto Resource.
Oh, okay.
And Keto Resource says, keto and comedic genius at its best. Love the delivery style of information. Keto foodies rejoice.
Wow, look at that. Someone who appreciates everything that we're doing.
Yes. Yay.
That person's a genius.
Yes.
Promote that guy. Okay.
It might be a girl.
Promote that gal.
Okay. The next one is excellent! With 4 stars, which kind of threw me off a bit because we just, I mean, we love all the stars, but that was just odd.
How are you going to give us 4 stars? Come on. All right.
And that was by A. Wilkes 121. So, A. Wilkes, I'm not sure if you're a boy or a girl, but anyway, you said Food Network for Ketonians, kitchen-based keto conversation, a nice addition to the other keto podcasts.
So there you go. Tell me what we got to do to get that 5th star.
Yes, let us know where we are lacking.
Yes,
which star we did not get.
Yeah, wouldn't it be neat if the stars like meant like there was a like like sound quality, content, like whatever that was determined like the number of stars. Like which star did we miss? Which star did we not get?
It's like McDonald's on their badges, they have 5 stars, or they don't. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, but you actually can tell which star they are lacking in. So that's what we need.
That was from your days of slinging McDonald's, right?
Yes. I'm not promoting McDonald's at all. I worked there for 4 years when I was very young. Moving on. Oh, look, the next review. This will cheer me up. Carrie is awesome! 5 stars. And that was by
Is that just
I'm thinking it's PW Kostrown.
Okay.
But I could be making up a name where there actually isn't one.
All right.
So I'm just going to call you P-Dub.
All right. I'm with you.
So P-Dub says, Carrie's knowledge and perspective in the kitchen combined with Brian's banter keeps you engaged and learning over the keto foodscape. I learn something new each podcast that opens the mind to new options in my kitchen.
All right. That's fantastic.
Yay for new options.
Yes. Up with
exciting cheese, exciting lettuce, exciting salami.
Yeah, you had me for a little bit, but then you lost me with the whole lettuce thing. So we're gonna have to move on.
Actually, so I posted. I went to the gym last week, and I haven't been for a while for reasons that I won't go into because they're dull. And Mr. Vega, the illustrious Danny Vega, who does the Ketogenic Athlete podcast with Brian, which if you're not listening to, you need to listen to that too. And he's helping me. And so I went to the gym and for the first time in a long time, and I came home and I was just starving and I ate 2 heads of romaine lettuce because I was just really wanting to eat lettuce. And so I posted on Facebook, I posted a plate of my lettuce and blamed Danny for its demise. And somebody, a lot of my Facebook is public, so anybody can. So a lot of people saw my plate of lettuce and my lettuce excitement, and someone said, "That doesn't look like one of your exciting lettuces."
Yeah, I'm with them on that, and also,
and it's true, it wasn't. It was romaine, but it was still yummy.
Yeah. Yeah. I basically have no comment at this point.
Okay.
On that
moving
whole thing.
on.
Yeah. There you go.
It just amused me that people look at, my Facebook and remember crazy things from our podcast. It makes me happy, but it also makes me smile. So the next one, awesome. 5 stars. No exclamation point.
Aw.
But we'll take the 5 stars.
Yeah.
And it's written by someone called Pogo Addict.
Oh, dear.
Now, I'm from England, so Pogo, I'm thinking it means one of those stick things with little shelves a little way up that you stand on and you bounce about on it.
Yep.
Pogo stick. That's what pogo means to me. Maybe in America, pogo means something else. I don't know.
I'm with you. That must be someone who really enjoys bouncing a very small amount of space in a very confined area. So
cool. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Pogo addict. Anyway, so Pogo Addict says, I just discovered this podcast and I've been binge listening to it every day. So much good info! ! This is my go-to podcast for all things keto. If you are new to keto, jump straight to the Don't Be Overwhelmed episode, my favorite so far.
Yay!
Yay!
That was a Carrie special.
It was, Brian, and I got to tell you that behind the scenes, Brian was like, when I told him what we were going to talk about, he's like, really? I'm like, uh-huh. I'm like, no, it'll be really helpful for some people. And he was like, okay, whatever you say.
I don't know if it was.
But there we go.
I don't know if it was exactly like that, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. So thank you, Pogo Addict, for proving my point that the Don't Be Overwhelmed episode was fundamental in your growing ketoness. Okay, I'm going to read. There's one really long one, and I have to read it because it made me laugh, and it was everything. So this is the last one I'm going to read, and it's called "Don't Be Surprised If ... with 5 stars, and it was written by Zakayla33. I'm assuming Zakayla's a girl, but I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I apologize.
It's a fair assumption.
And it starts with, in parentheses, brackets, if you're in England, by the way, I never read reviews. So that's how Zakayla started.
Okay.
So here it is. It's long. My review for the KETOGENIC Kitchen podcast. For those who have listened to this podcast, you'll probably be nodding your head soon if you continue reading this post. If you are new to listening to this podcast, here are some don't be surprised ifs, and I do not mean intermittent fasting. Don't be surprised if you laugh at Brian Williamson's British imitation of Carrie Brown. I laugh at him because he combines different accents of what he assumes is the real English language. If you listen carefully, sometimes he sounds like an Australian or a pirate. Don't be surprised if you find yourself laughing out loud in the car. These two hosts are hilarious, and right about now, there's probably a huge grin on Brian Williamson's face because he really is convinced he is funny. All I can say is I'm glad that he can laugh at his own jokes. LOL. Don't be surprised if you refused to purchase or consume any American cheese. I recently found myself looking at different cheeses and quickly put them down if they were made in the USA. Thank you, Carrie Brown. I am now a cheese snob. And a thank you for Brian Williamson's suggestion of Kerrygold cheese. I found 2 different ones and I'm in love. Don't be surprised if you can hear Carrie Brown's eyes roll at Brian Williamson. Don't be surprised if you hear great nutritional information, fall in love with leeks, and demand to try the different types of salami at the deli counter. Don't be surprised if you get addicted to their podcast and no longer get addicted to carbs. And finally, don't be surprised if you replay certain podcasts, especially the beginning of the pork chop episode. I will continue listening to this podcast because I agree with Brian Williamson when he giggles, "Oh, this is horrible, horrible radio."
Basically, that was just a review saying that everything I do sucks and everything you do is great. So who wrote that?
That was Zakayla33.
Okay, so it's Zakayla33. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
I suggested Kerrygold cheese, so good for me.
Yes.
But everything else sucks. That's what I
did. I did actually, Zakayla. This will probably make you happy that I did when I read. If you listen carefully, sometimes Brian sounds like an Australian or a pirate. I did laugh out loud when the first time I read that. I did. Yeah.
That's because
your review made me laugh. And actually, the pork chop episode, and the nuts episode, those two. If I'm like got the blahs and I just, or someone at the day job is driving me mad, I'll just play the pork chop episode or the nut episode, and it snaps me out of any bad mood.
Well, I'm glad that I can be there in those moments.
Because the pork chop episode is all Brian and it's fantastic.
I don't know if that's true, but it was pretty funny. All right. Do we have another one, or is that it?
No, I've done 5. I think that's enough.
Okay, 5. All right. Then thanks, everyone.
I still have a balance of ones I haven't done yet, so I need to go back and figure that out.
Still have plenty. All right. So thanks, everyone who contributed to the reviews. If you want to hear Carrie read your review in her
non-pirate accent.
Well, I was gonna. What's an appropriate sort of adjective in a I was gonna say swanky British accent. Then all you gotta do is leave a review, and Carrie will eventually get to it. Unless you're one of the middle ones, then she may not ever get to it. But other than that, you're almost guaranteed to get one.
Yes.
All right. So
Carrie must try harder.
What is the topic du jour?
Sage.
Like wisdom, or like stuff you put on, say,
other stuff. Since this is the kitchen. Well, actually, it could be either, couldn't it?
Well, we do have a Motivation Monday coming up in a minute.
So it'll be both. All
right. So we're talking about sage.
And Brian likes, so this is more behind the scenes. Brian likes to know in advance what we're going to talk about. And so yesterday, was it yesterday? No, it was Friday. So Friday morning, I was actually away. I was actually at the ocean. I was writing an ice cream book. And sometimes I find it easier to get away from my kitchen so I can't be distracted by pints of heavy whipping cream and my churner. So I actually left the house. I left the building for a couple of days and went to write at the ocean. And I text Brian on Friday. I just text Sage because, I thought, well, he'll get it.
Boy, was she wrong.
And so he texts me back, time, THYME. So I text back, no, definitely sage. And that was the end of that.
Well, okay, but
then when we got on the Google Hangout or whatever it is we're doing right now to do this podcast, he's like, what are we talking about? I'm like, sage. And he's like, oh, is that what you meant?
So let's put some little context around this too, because Carrie has a habit of just texting me random things without like letting me know what she's actually talking about. So I didn't know. Okay, so for folks who are not aware, the word sage is a way to identify things that are particularly wise or particularly applicable to someone's life. And we have numerous conversations, and I didn't know if Carrie was commenting on something that we had said earlier, that she was rereading it and saying, that is some pretty good advice. Either that she's getting or that she's giving. I don't know. So I'm like trying to figure out why she's texting me herb names. So I figure it's a game of let's name all the herbs. So I'm down. So I come out swinging with time, and then she abruptly ends the game by saying, no, sage. So, all right. And it turns out that's what she was talking about. So there you go.
It's true. I'm a huge introvert, and so often Brian and I will either have conversations or we'll have text conversations, and then like a few hours later, or a few days later, or even weeks later, I'll suddenly go back to referring to something he said weeks or days or hours earlier, because introverts like to think things that we like time to think things over. And so I'll say something in the moment, and then I'll go away and randomly come back with something any amount of time later and completely confused.
Well, and so just to be fair, I'm guilty of this too. Like I forget other people aren't in my head too. So
right.
I'll just say things and people have no idea what I'm talking about. And it's very clear to me because I've been thinking about it for days at a time, whatever.
Exactly.
So yeah. So I'm just saying it wasn't, yes, I know that I'm an idiot, but I was trying to figure it out, and I had a 50-50 shot, people, and I guessed wrong. Although I did enjoy the whole let's name all the herbs thing. So
the good news is that we are going to do a recipe similar to the tarragon. We're going to talk about sage, and then I'm going to give you a recipe with sage in that you could go cook. And I'm looking at the recipe, and the other herb that is in this recipe is thyme.
Look at that.
Synchronicity at its finest.
Okay, so I'm gonna say there are 4. I believe there are 4, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there are essentially 4 of what we'd call what would you call it, primary herbs or essential herbs. Maybe there's parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. That should sound like a song if anyone is in the 60s, called Scarborough Fair. Those sage and thyme and rosemary and parsley are considered the essential herbs in Britain, at least. Am I right or am I wrong about that?
You are. So my Herbie hero, who is Jerry, what's his last name?
Lewis?
Jerry Traunfeld.
Okay.
Who used to be the executive chef, or the top chef, whatever they call them, at the herb farm, which is in Woodinville, which is near Seattle. And he's a herb guru, and he lists for herbal kitchen plants, he lists the essentials are thyme, tarragon, sage, marjoram, spearmint, and basil. If you live in a climate with mild winters, aka England, you can add rosemary and bay to that. So yes, you were right as usual, Mr. Williamson. Well done.
Okay. So there you go. So, all right, then what is sage? Why should we use it? Why is it appropriate? And what does it smell like?
Oh, that last one's a good question. What does it smell like? It smells like...
I happen to have some sage right here. You want me to give you a description?
I happen to have some sage right here too.
You know, I'm going to say it smells sort of woody, sort of minty a little bit. And
I guess it reminds me more of mint than anything else, but that may be because the leaves are kind of a bit, they're a lot fuzzy.
Well, they're part of the mint family. They're a member of the mint family.
Yeah, so the fuzzy leaves thing, it reminds me of mint. But having said it's most like mint, it's its own thing. Sage is, I love sage. Next to tarragon, I think that's possibly my next favorite herb. So
to describe it, it would be like a savory, sort of peppery, kind of minty, woody scent to it. And it's a mild taste.
It is a mild taste, and you do need to cook it. It gets better with heat. It's not one of the herbs that you should just either eat raw or toss in for 3 seconds. Sage is better when it's cooked.
I was just about to eat a spoonful of this. So you're saying I should have cooked it first?
Yes.
Okay. Note to self. Got it.
It is. It's good when it's cooked in fat, like butter.
I wonder if they make sage butter. I know they make the sage Derby cheese that you told us about. By the way, I'm segueing. Right. The sage Derby cheese that you mentioned to us on the cheese episode. I super liked that.
Yes.
Of course, it's can't go wrong.
I am assuming, although I don't know, but I'm assuming that they actually cook the sage somehow before they put it in the cheese. But yeah, sage Derby. Sage goes with a lot of things.
Like what?
So sage goes with, and one of the things it goes best with is cheese. So that's, I guess, why somebody said, well, let's put the sage in the cheese, because they go really, really well together. So other things that sage goes great with: asparagus.
I'm not okay. Hold on. I'm not laughing at you. I liked how you noticed what you said and readdressed it. I just thought that was funny. I'm not laughing at you. If anyone thinks I'm not being mean or anything, I just liked how you. Anyway, go on.
Also, even if you were laughing at me, I wouldn't care.
I do. I care.
green beans, cheese,
So
especially brie, feta, fontina, gruyere, parmesan, ricotta. So cheese.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's go back to the green beans thing. You're saying that green beans is a good mix for just straight up sage?
Sage. Mm-hmm.
Like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be interesting, mostly because aren't green beans generally mild flavored too? So, okay. Now, the cheeses that you listed, with the exception of ricotta cheese, all of them are pretty powerful, right?
Right.
So we've got this weird dichotomy of that sage will go with stuff that's pretty mild.
They're all on the sharper end of the more acid end of the cheese department. They're all a bit. They've all got a bit of a zing to them.
It's kapow.
Yes.
Okay.
So sour cherries, which before anybody screams at me, there are less carbs in sour cherries than blueberries. So if you want to, I mean, you have to get them to the place where they're palatable. I'm going to help you with that in the very near future. But sour cherries in similar tiny quantities to berries are fine. Sage also goes really, really well with chicken.
Okay.
Duck, eggplant, fattier foods. So sage and fat go very well together. So sage goes well with fatty meats. Fish, especially oilier. So there's a trend here. All the fatty things, cheese, duck, fattier meats, fattier fish.
Cream sauces.
Goes well with garlic. Goes well with goose, which is a very, very fatty bird. Goes well with liver, for you liver lovers, who I'm hoping that soon I'm going to create some more liver lovers. Sage is a good thing to go with liver. Other herbs that you can combine it with, marjoram goes well with. Rosemary. What else does it go well with? And thyme. So those are the other.
So I have to say, from my childhood, I didn't know this. Okay, so I didn't know this until I made a particular recipe. So it turns out that sage for me is a I like it a lot, but I didn't know I liked it a lot. And the reason I didn't know is because every year around the holidays, the Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, before I was keto, I would eat stuffing. And like I ate if you're familiar with the brand of stuffing that comes in a box and all you have to do is boil some water and pour some stuff in it and it's red, the red box, and it's got yellow lettering on it, and it might rhyme with Rove Rop. I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying it's similar to that. But that's what I associate with stuffing, right? And when Carrie Brown made her holiday cookbook and she included a pork stuffing thing and we made it, the thing that reminded me the most of it was the sage taste, because there's sage in there, because sage and pork go very well together.
Sage and pork go in fact, if there was one thing, if I had to pick one thing that goes the best with sage, it's pork. Which
is saying something, because sage Derby is pretty dang good. But my point is that Carrie's recipe for the pork stuffing, and if you have her book and you haven't made it, I want to encourage you to do that because it's very good. But that was, and it tastes just like the stovetop stuffing.
And don't be limited. I had a bunch of people who, after the holiday book came out and they made the stuffing, and then a lot of people emailed me or pinged me on Facebook and said, hey, you know what, we had some stuffing left over. So I warmed it up the next day and I put it on a plate and I put a fried egg on top, and it made the best breakfast. So don't think that, well, I'll try that in November when it's Thanksgiving. If you have the book, make a good breakfast, make a whole batch of stuffing up, heat some up in the morning, eggs on top, perfect breakfast.
I didn't even have to have eggs. I just ate it out of the container with a spoon. I didn't care. Like, it's good. So, okay.
So Where did I get to? I got to the herbs that it goes with.
Yes.
Then meats, again, fattier, richer roasted meats. Sage goes well with mushrooms. It goes well with onion. That's another big thing. Sage and onion is a very kind of classical combination. Prosciutto, poultry, sausages, all the fatty stuff. Also goes well in stuffing. Goes well with tomatoes, turkey, veal.
So,
and if that hasn't given you enough things to try sage with, I'm not sure how else I can help you.
So are there anything that you would suggest not pairing sage with? Is there anything that you can think of that would not be a good mix?
I'm trying to think. I actually read something the other day about don't put sage with this, and now I've forgotten.
Oh, okay. I'm going to throw out some suggestions. Chocolate pudding. Is that a go or no go?
I don't know.
I would say no.
I would say no simply because chocolate and mint go brilliantly together.
Yeah.
But mint's a lot more pungent. It can kind of stand up to chocolate. I'm wondering if sage.
But chocolate and tree bark don't go well together, so that's kind of sage has a more woodier.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd say skip the chocolate pudding.
Okay, so even if it is keto chocolate pudding, don't put sage in it. All right, I'm going to try one more. Hazelnut ice cream.
I have been experimenting with sage ice cream, but it didn't go in the hazelnut.
Okay. All right. So there are things that you probably don't want to put sage with, but it is.
If you stick to the list of things that I just reeled off about things it does go with, if you start there, then you'll be in good shape.
All right. So there you go. But you also have a, what do you call it? A recipe that you want to go through too?
I do. But first, I wanted to just mention that sage is purported to aid in the digestion of fatty and oily foods.
Oh, okay.
Which is why one of the reasons why it's used with them so often, because, back in the days where people listened to their bodies, that was one of the herbal remedies for indigestion, was to eat sage.
Okay, so that's an interesting thing. I think that we should do we should totally do an episode on, like, for lack of a better term, like medicinal qualities of herbs, not like, healing your gout with, parsley packets or whatever. But I'm saying, there's some benefits. We need to write that down. That's a good idea. I'm glad you thought of it. So you're saying, though, that sage has benefits other than the fact that it tastes good in Carrie Brown's pork stuffing.
Yes, and it's also it's easy to grow. I have a little herb garden out in my yard, and it's one of the things that I've never struggled to grow sage. So, mind you, I'm in Seattle, so but I've never had a problem growing it, and it's quite prolific, as is mint. So you might like to start your own little sage garden.
Do you ever just go outside, since there's mint growing everywhere, and just start, like, chewing on stuff just to see how that? No?
Well, not with sage, because sage is much better when it's cooked.
Okay, that's right. I remember that now.
So cook it rather than add it at the last minute. Don't leave it raw. It does have, if you eat it raw, it does have a bit of a medicinal flavor that mellows with the heat, and also the felty texture becomes more palatable. Also, when you chop it, obviously, particularly good when it's cooked in fat. What else?
So okay, so while you're thinking of that, there's an interesting. So I have a beard, and They sell some people. There's something you can buy. It's called beard oil, and it's exactly the way it sounds. And the whole idea is that you want to make sure that you condition your beard with this beard oil, and it's basically just oil. And what they'll do is they have different scents, not flavors. You're not supposed to eat it. I mean, it's totally edible, but you wouldn't want to. Anyway. It's different scents. And what I'm noticing though is that most of them are not geared toward the flowery, sweet smelling stuff. They're mostly geared toward more earthy kinds of scents because they're, if a guy's got a beard, chances are he's,
earthy.
Yeah. So sage is an ingredient in like the sage essential oil is an ingredient in several of the scents that I was looking at, and I'm tempted to get it because I dig it. Can I just say, I'm not going to say the brand, but I'll just say there are two scents that I really, really like that I use. One is called Lumberyard, and the other is called Forest Ranger. And one of the Lumberyard one smells exactly the way it sounds. It smells like sawdust, and it's awesome. The Forest Ranger one does not smell like a dude who's been walking out in the forest for a week. It actually smells like pine tree, not like.
Brian, Sweet Pea, I think you're on the wrong podcast.
No, it's good.
I think this would be better on the Ketogenic Athlete podcast somehow.
Listen. Not listening. I forgot what I was talking about. What was I talking about?
Sawdust.
Oh, sawdust.
I can't get past the sawdust.
It's awesome. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just want to apologize now. Well, one day when you have a beard, you'll thank me for giving you advice of this sort.
I think we should do a recipe now.
Oh, okay. Is it going to have sage in it?
Well, funnily enough, it is.
Oh, okay. Is it going to have sawdust in it? Because I don't know if that would work as well.
No.
Okay.
But it is also going to have thyme in it.
Oh, okay. I need time. I need more time.
And it's also has my favorite thickener in it, which is
konjac flour.
Well done, lovey. Well done. Konjac flour. He pays attention, people. I love that he pays attention.
Wait, what were we talking about?
Sometimes I don't love that he pays attention because he pays attention to things I'm hoping that he hasn't noticed. But unfortunately, no. Brian Williamson is an attention payer.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I knew you'd think that was funny.
Yeah, that's a funny story. We're just moving on from that one. All right.
Anyway, this is super simple recipe, and it makes an entree which you would then spoon on top of your zoodles or your braised shredded cabbage or whatever other side you have, or miracle noodles would also be good with that. Or if you're Brian Williamson, you would simply sit down and eat a big bowl of this. Okay,
I have to tell you, as I'm listening to you explain all of that, in my head, all I was thinking is, I'd just take the pan. Just eat it out of the pan.
Well, I did add a little bit of decorum because I did have you putting some from the pan into the bowl, but then
right. But then I have to clean. But then I have to clean a bowl. So why would I go through that kind of trouble? So I like the fact, like you get me. So thank you for that. All right.
Yes. So, and actually, the idea of doing something that was based around sage came. I was out on I went for a hike by the Yakima River. If there's any Yakima people listening, hello Yakima. Yakima's in Washington, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know that.
All right.
And it was fall and it was a tad nippy, and I went for a walk down a canyon and it was very frosty, and there was wild sage everywhere. I mean, you could literally smell it as you walked along. There was so much sage in this canyon. And so I gathered up a bunch of sage and I put it on the dashboard over the heater vent, and I had sage like wafting around me and up my nose for days afterwards. So
now, okay, so are you saying this is a good thing?
No, it was an awesome thing.
All right, so that's what I'm saying. So if you've got beard oil and it's got sage in it, that's a good thing. That's what I'm saying.
I don't put sawdust on my dashboard.
It smells like sawdust. It's not actually sawdust. It would not be oil if it was sawdust. And besides, that would be really hard to sell. Here, rub this sawdust in your beard. Come on, Carrie.
Anyway, so I was out for a walk, found sage, put a big bunch on my dashboard, got sagey smells all week, and then raced home and had to cook sage because it was just so delicious.
Okay, so hold on. I told Carrie that I wanted to incorporate this at some point in time. The phrase should have been out for a walk, found some sage, took it to the car, Bob's your uncle, then I had to go home and... Right?
Right. Bob is your uncle.
That's the worst British accent I've ever heard.
What, mine?
Bob is your uncle.
Okay, I'm not even going to ask. I'm just going to tell you to pipe down now because I need to do this recipe and I need to do it without you interrupting me.
All right, just dibs on the band name Bob's your uncle. Go.
So you're going to heat a tablespoon of avocado or coconut oil and an ounce, which is 30 grams, of butter in a skillet over a medium heat until the butter is melted. And then you're going to very finely chop 4 ounces of onion, and you're going to toss that into the butter and oil, and you're going to saute it until it's soft. And then you're going to season the onion with sea salt and ground black pepper. And you're going to add 4 teaspoons of dried sage and 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme. Now, I know 4 teaspoons sounds like a lot. And when I was making this and I kept putting more in and more and more in, I was like really worried. But it needs 4 teaspoons and it comes out awesome. And I've actually had a couple of people comment that they were also worried when they saw 4 teaspoons and wondered if it was a typo and then discovered that it's not. So you've got your seasoned onions, you've added 4 teaspoons of dried sage, you've added 1/4 teaspoon of dried thyme, and you've stirred that all together. And then you're going to get 1.5 pounds of pork loin, which you have cut into like bite-sized or slightly bigger than bite-sized cubes. And you're going to put the cubed pork into the pan with the onions and seasonings, and you're going to saute them all together until the pork and onions are golden brown, which will take you about 10 minutes. Then you are going to add 8 fluid ounces, which is 1 cup, of chicken stock. And you're going to let it heat up. You're going to stir everything together. And then you're going to get 1/2 teaspoon of konjac flour, also known as glucomannan powder. And you're going to sprinkle that over the top of everything in the pan and then just stir it really rapidly and well. And then you're going to bring the pork and the sauce to the boil and then lower the heat, simmer it, stir frequently until the sauce is thickened, which will be about 5 minutes. And then, if you're Brian, you're going to eat it out the pan.
Yes.
And if you're everybody else, you're going to spoon it on a plate or into a bowl.
Rude.
And serve it with something, be it zoodles or miracle noodles or miracle rice or or braised cabbage, or I served it because I made this for dinner. I had friends over and I served it with tarragon green beans and celery leek stir fry. Both of those are somewhere. I'll link to the recipes when I post this recipe up in the Ketovangelist kitchen. I'll link to those too. So that's how I served it. But there's lots of things you can serve it with, or you can just have the meat and then have a salad on the side if you like that too. You may speak now, Mr. Williamson.
So I was just going to
thank you for not interrupting the recipe.
See, I wanted to like 5 times, but I didn't.
Well, I'm very proud of you. I know that was hard.
Can learn. So just to make sure I heard you correctly, you're putting chunks of pork. You said tenderloin in there.
Pork loin.
Okay. So I don't know. Why would you need anything else? Like, you've got the meat in there already. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, why would you ruin it by scooping it over some sort of vegetable or thing? You know what I'm saying? Oh, this will work. That recipe will also work with chicken too, right?
It will work with chicken, but remember that pork is the
fatty.
Is the thing that goes better with sage than anything else in the world.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yes, if you don't like pork, haven't got pork, don't want to go shopping, prefer chicken, it will also work with chicken.
I'm trying to imagine this because I do have a pretty profound sense memory when it comes to taste stuff. I don't think that beef would work as well, because I think you really have to like smack beef in the face in order for the flavor to take effect, right? So for this is more of a delicate kind of thing. So that's why it would work so well with pork. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're right.
Okay. So just stick with pork. Now, if you're kosher and you can't eat pork, or for whatever reason you can't eat pork, leave the pork out and just eat the rest of it. That works too. No?
Do chicken.
Okay, then do chicken. Fine. What about duck?
Or
duck.
If you have duck. So duck and goose were the other birds that were particularly go well with sage.
I totally forgot.
So
about
those
that.
are your options.
I ran afoul of that. You guys,
but given that pork is one the very cheapest end of the meat department typically. This will also help with your budget if you stick to the pork.
I just have to say, you guys did not. You may not have seen it, but I'm sure you heard Carrie's eyes just roll into the back of her head just now. I witnessed it in all of its glory. Is all I'm saying.
I'm so transparent.
Right. All right. So there you go. Fantastic recipe. Did you say the name of it?
I called it sage and onion pork.
That is very descriptive, because it has not only pork and onion, but sage as well.
But I think I might change the title and make it something fun, because people only do those titles just for SEO hits, and I'm not into all that.
Right. We're not going to get into what SEO is.
No.
Okay. All right. So you know what that means?
Yes.
It's Motivation Monday.
Seriously, sounds like a recording. I swear you just push a button and that happens. It just makes. Actually, I'm going to get you to record that like on a voicemail, and so every time I can just poke it every time I like, so I can hear you saying that. Just cheer me up.
Okay, what's our Motivation Monday for today?
It is. What has happened to you in the past only defines you if you allow it to.
Ooh, that's deep.
Take back your power by deciding who you are and how you want to live. It's your life, so live it by your rules.
All right, one more time, because I interrupted you because I didn't know you were going to keep going. There was a dramatic pause, and I misread it. So go ahead and try it again.
What has happened to you in the past only defines you if you allow it to. Take back your power by deciding who you are and how you want to live. It's your life, so live it by your rules.
All right.
Unless it breaks the law and ends you in jail, then I wouldn't recommend that.
That's too long. That was just adding that little bit at the end there was just too long. It just made it too long for Motivation Monday. All right. So what's your take on it then?
It's true. I know it's true. The difficulty I've always found is the stopping allowing.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's, I have found anyway, that's really, really hard to break free of, things you were told when you were a kid, or bad stuff that happened to you. And I agree that it only defines you if you allow it, but it's the stopping allowing it that's the work.
Yeah, and I think,
but it's good work, and you should absolutely do it. And I am still doing it with various things now, and I often have to remind myself that if I am being defined by something in my past, it's because I'm allowing it, and I have the opportunity, or I could choose to not allow it.
And that's really the crucial thing, right? Is we all have a choice as to what we allow to define ourselves, or to kind of to control us in some way, shape, or form. So, and first, I think the first step is recognizing it, and then the second step is giving yourself permission to do something about it. You're talking about the allowance of it to kind of control you. As long as you give yourself permission, as long as you refuse to give yourself permission to do something about it, because there are some people who feel like they can't do that, or somehow it's wrong to do that, or they're somehow not being true to themselves if they do that, or some weird thing. You have to be able to give yourself permission to actually say, this stuff that happened in the past, yeah, it sucked, or I don't, I'm not proud of it, or it hurt, or whatever. But you have to be able to say, okay, but I'm not going to, starting right now. And there's a lot of the starting right now part that people seem to forget. It may not be a single point where starting right now and you never have to worry about it again. And there may be a lot of starting right nows every day that I'm going to do what I can to make sure that this is not defining me, that this is not who I am. It is a part of my life, and I wouldn't be who I am if that hadn't happened, but I am not the sum total of those things, or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think, because, I always like to relate this to food or keto or something. And it made me think of, there's probably a lot of our listeners who have been heavy or overweight, or, and I think I get the impression that a lot of people, they start to define themselves as, the fat person, the person that can't exercise, that, all of this negative stuff. And I know from speaking to people that there's a not insignificant number of people who sabotage themselves because they have that vision of who they are, the definition that's been given to them of them being the fat person or whatever. It makes it very hard for them to when they start losing weight, they can become completely uncomfortable, because now they're not fitting this definition that other people gave them when they were heavy.
Well, not only that other people gave them, but they started to believe themselves, right? So they're faced with this cognitive dissonance thing, where,
right.
And that's true. And I've actually seen this in people that I used to coach. Not all of them, obviously, but many, where you had to convince them that it's good. It's a good thing for them to lose weight and get healthy.
Right.
And
so the second part of this, which was take back your power by deciding who you are. And that to me is like, the big person, the fat person is not who I am. That's, what I look like, but that's not who I am. And it will be, if I walk around in a body that's, a half or a quarter of the size, that will be way, way better. So, and you can decide that you're actually a fit, lean, healthy person, and what you're going to do to get there. You don't have to constantly be dragged back into no, I have to remain big. I can't do anything helpful for myself because these other people are defining me, and I'm trying to fit their definition. You can decide who you are and what it's going to take for you to get there. You don't have to remain tied to past definitions that either you've created or other people have given to you.
Right. You can do that. Yeah. I mean, you have the ability to adjust or correct or fix it, however you want to phrase it. All right.
And it's your life. It's your
Right.
life. So, you make up the rules. And if keto, I know a lot of people have struggle with, other people saying to them, never said a word to them when they guzzled, 2 liters of Coke and ate sugary ice cream and cakes all day long. But as soon as you turn around and eat, half a pound of bacon, everyone's gasping and telling you you're going to have a heart attack. If keto works for you, then it's your life. You live it by your rules. And if other people don't like it, oh well.
Jog on. All right. So read it one more time. Read the Motivation Monday one more time.
What has happened to you in the past only defines you if you allow it to. Take back your power by deciding who you are and how you want to live. It's your life, so live it by your rules.
All right. There you go. So going out this week, notice, I mean, again, it starts with you being aware enough of this particular situation, and then realize that you can change it. All right. So that's our Motivation Monday. All right. So Carrie Brown, sage, huh? Sage. So you want people to kind of take pictures of the recipe they made and post it in the Ketovangelist Kitchen Facebook group?
Yes.
And you want them to give suggestions for names?
Yes.
Okay. So if you heard the recipe that Carrie made or that Carrie gave, and you go out and you make it, take pictures of it, post them in the Ketovangelist Kitchen Facebook group, and give us a suggestion for the name. And the winner will get the satisfaction of knowing that Carrie Brown is actually reading what you write. Because she'll use your name. Not your name. She'll use the name you suggest. That would be weird to call a recipe Karen. That's not assuming Karen's going to win. I'm just saying.
Yes, that would be weird. But we could call it Karen's something.
Oh. Yeah, that's true too. There we go.
Like Karen's magical pork hash or...
You just made that up.
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
totally.
if your name is Karen, you don't get to guess now because the pool has been tainted. That's what's going on. All right. So sage is useful, and don't be afraid of it. And I think a lot of people, sage is one of those things where it's a really, if you actually start using it, you'll realize you taste it all over the place. You may not realize it afterwards or beforehand.
Yeah, sage is typically a kind of supporting cast member rather than the leading thing. But so I guess my suggestion is make it the leading thing.
Yeah, there we go. Take it from best supporting actor to
Oscar winner.
Right. All right. So Carrie Brown, this is, I guess we'll talk to you next week.
Indeed.
All right. Have a good one, Carrie Brown. We'll talk to you. Okay, then.
See ya.
All right, bye. Sage. Am I right? Try it. Experiment a little bit. See what it doesn't go with. Hey, if you guys try it on some stuff and you're like, oh, this is terrible, let us know about that too. You can find us on Facebook. We're the Ketovangelist Kitchen Facebook group. And you can find us on the Twitter, Ketovan Kitchen, Instagram, Ketovangelist Kitchen, and apparently this new thing called Pinterest that I keep hearing all about. Just search for Ketovangelist Kitchen because that's where we are. Also, leave a rating and review because Carrie's awesome and the world needs to know about it. And plus, you get to hear your words read in Carrie Brown's voice. Until next time, keep being awesome. Powered by ketones.